Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
Anybody else have trouble shutting off their brain at night? Of course, in some Eastern cultures, Eastern religions, they talk about the mind monkey or monkey mind. This is a Buddhist term. It's an unsettled mind, a restless mind. It's in constant motion, sometimes confused, out of control, the monkey mind. I just thought it was a great term. And obviously we reject the woo, all the sort of neo-Confucianism and Taoism and whatnot that's associated with the term. But it's just, hey, I've just got monkey mind, especially when the hamster wheel of the brain just continues to spin in the middle of the night. I mean, it's not like I'm doing calculus. My brain is not a rocket science brain. My brain is not a deep thinking brain. I'm just a guy who has a hard time finding the off switch. Do you know what that's like? Every night we get to bed. I mean, I get up early. I like to get up early, usually before the sun comes up. That's my time. And as a result, I go to bed relatively early, 10 o'clock. And Natalie's out in 5 minutes or less. She just closes her eyes, and within a few minutes, I can hear that measured breathing, and I know that she is off. She's sleeping blissfully. Good night, and I will see you tomorrow. She's gone, okay? And I just lie there. Lights are off, the fan is on, the room is nice and cool. I'm in my cocoon of warm blankets. I've got Rat Dog sleeping under my right hand where she likes to sleep. It's like her blanket, like she knows exactly where to scoot. And then Henry falls asleep on my chest. He's 3.5 pounds. He's like half the size of a cat, so he likes to start right on the top of my chest under my neck, and I put my other hand on him. It's just this pattern we have. Natalie is snuggled into my left. We're all just sort of cocooned right there together. This is sort of the starting point before everybody changes places 10 times during the night. And I'm lying there, sleepy, after a long day, sleepy. The body's tired. The body's telling you it's tired. The mind is tired. And yet the mind won't stop spinning. And you just think. It's not anxiety. It's not like anxious thoughts. It's just thoughts. It's nonstop, a cacophony of wildly differing ideas and thoughts and questions and concerns and hopes and dreams and just amazing stuff, deep stuff, fun stuff, stupid stuff. You just lie there. And the brain is just going, just tossing out all kinds of weird stuff in no particular order. You just lie there. You just lie there and you think, as I sit right here on this bed, as I lie down in this room, right now, there's a Tesla Roadster in space hurtling toward Mars. I wonder what they used for the mannequin inside the spacesuit. Was it like a store mannequin, or did they just stuff it with something else? Is it just the suit? Or is the suit strong enough to sit up on its own? Certainly there's a mannequin inside. So right now it's in space. It's hurtling outward away from Earth. That's amazing. That's amazing. What an amazing time to be alive. And what if an alien encounters that? I mean, is this what they would think humankind is? Like would they open the spacesuit and see this plastic mannequin inside and assume that is a human being? And could they then sort of reverse plot the trajectory to find the origin and then come visit us? What would life in space even look like? Probably nothing we could ever expect. Right? We always like to say aliens look a bit like us with the big head, and they've got the two eyes and the mouth and the hands and the legs. They are very humanoid, but we know that alien life is probably going to be wildly different. They might just think it's another asteroid, another piece of space, whatever, just flying by. A Tesla ignored. That's kind of a crime. But it's still an amazing time to be alive, huh? To see the technology and the ingenuity and the dreamers who put these things together, and to wonder what's going to be possible in the future. I wonder if I'll see Mars colonized before I die. I'm going to be 50 in April. 50? I don't feel almost 50. When I was a kid, if you told me about the day I'd be 50, I would have thought you were talking about old people. Oh, 50. Talking about old people. I don't feel like an old person. I don't feel like an old... Am I an old person? How old do you have to be to get mail from the AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons, and to join? And don't they start sending you stuff when you turn 50? I don't know. April being my birthday, it's also going to be the final day of the American Atheist Convention. That's coming up. That's going to be a great time. They're having it in my home state. How cool is that? The Bible Belt needs this kind of stuff, Be good to see my friends. Be good to see everybody. Now, for some reason, I can't get the song out of my head. Have you heard the song? The Duck Song. On the internet. And it's really old, but somebody had it up the other day for the kids. The kids loved it, but, it's been stuck in my head all day. Well, the duck walked up to the lemonade stand, and he said to the man running the stand, "Hey, dun, 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 got any grapes?" I've been singing that for the last 36 hours. Have you noticed how few people use the Oxford comma anymore? I used to use it all the time. You have three things in a sentence and you put a comma in between each thing. And that used to be my normal. I would use the Oxford comma, but, I don't use it as much anymore. Is it still grammatically correct? There's a big controversy about whether people should use the Oxford comma. I think it's grammatically correct, Of course, I've heard people say that the word irregardless is correct in the English language. They tell me that's now a legitimate word. Well, irregardless, you got to be kidding me. Irregardless is not a word. It's regardless, right? You don't do something irregardless. You do it regardless. And we shouldn't legitimize a non-word simply because people can't use language correctly. That's stupid. Of course, other words have been incorporated after people used them incorrectly, and then they were sort of normalized. So maybe the rule does. No. Irregardless will never be a word. Irregardless will never be a word. No. It's getting cooler in here. Feels good to be under the covers. Henry's fast asleep on my chest. He's just so sweet. How old is he now? I think he's 11. How old do small dogs live? Do small dogs have a longer lifespan than larger dogs? I used to have Great Danes. They lived to be about 8. But I think smaller dogs live longer. So let's see, if he's 11, we should have another 4 or 5 years, hopefully, with Henry and Rat Dog. I certainly hope so. They're so sweet. Such good dogs. So the duck walked up to the lemonade stand, and he said to the man running the stand, "Hey, dun, 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 got any grapes?" Coffee sounds good. God, now it's 10:30 at night. The last thing you should do is have coffee. I need to clean the coffee maker, though. It's been a while since I've cleaned that thing. And I love the new Guatemalan coffee we bought. We tried the Peru coffee, the Peru flavor, but it wasn't quite as good. And I'm not a big fan of the French roast, but the Guatemalan flavor is it's robust, but it's not, it's not too heavy. It's really good. I love the smell of coffee. The smell of coffee just relaxes you, even if I'm not drinking coffee. Have you noticed that? Smell coffee, just makes everything better. This is my mind. This is my mind. I can't tell you how many times I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and I'll just do this. And sometimes it hits me really fast. I mean, it's just one thought after the other. Bam, 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 bam. It's like a roller coaster ride of just stuff. Mind being this weird blender on puree with everything you've done and are doing and might need to do, and then just random stuff. They say, I have heard that if you lie in bed longer than 30 minutes, you should just get up. Like if you're lying there longer than a half an hour, get up, do something, go get a bite to eat or read a book or turn on the television or do something. And that's what I'll normally do. If I calculate it's been more than 30 minutes, I'll get up and I'll sometimes post on social media, I can't sleep. And then all the other insomniacs will chime in. It's just an interesting thing. I've heard that you sleep less as you get older. Is that true? Like I know that my father used to sit in a chair and fall asleep. I don't know if he slept a lot at night, but he could sit in front of my grandmother. She would sit and she had this lazy boy recliner. She'd sit down and she was just asleep. They'd be watching a game show or something on television and she would just go sleep. She used to crochet. She used to do blankets, these big ornate blankets, and she'd spend so much time making them. And she'd fall asleep with the crochet needles in her hand. She just fell asleep. So while she slept, I think she slept less at night. She sort of had these little power naps throughout the day. I don't know. Do you sleep more or less as you age? This is something I need to know because I'm about to turn 50. Anyway, that's a snapshot into my pathetic little life. Like, what's your solution to dial that stuff back? I mean, how do you calm your brain down? How do you tell your brain it is time to sleep, right? At least if I'm going to be thinking about stuff, let's make it a dream. And I've had some bizarre dreams lately. Bizarre. I had a dream I was in an underwater submarine under a cruise ship in the middle of the night. And I had a dream that I was playing golf on Everest. It didn't start on Everest. It started at a local golf course. And, by the time I hit the 9th hole, I was like climbing up these rocks, snow everywhere. Bizarre. Now, Natalie wakes up. She's like, I had the weirdest dream. And I'm like, oh, I think I got you beat. What causes that? Who needs to dream weird stuff, right? The real world is weird enough. Did you hear that Stryper is coming out with a new album? Now, if you're one of the people who doesn't know who Stryper is, let me try to paint this picture as best I can for you, okay? I grew up in Christian music. I was surrounded by it. It sort of informed my beginning in Christian radio back in 1990. But when I was in junior high and high school, I listened to Christian music all the time, and I was proud of it. I was such a sanctimonious kid, right? If they were playing Kansas or Styx or something else, AC/DC, well, I would crank up my Stryper or whatever because I was going to overpower the devil's music with Jesus music. If we went to lunch in my car on open campus, we had high school open campus, and we'd sometimes leave school to go have lunch at McDonald's or whatever, I'd always be playing Christian music in my car as loud as I could just because, man, we're rocking for Jesus. It was just, I was that kid. I'm ashamed of it. I'm so embarrassed of it. But, Stryper at the time was this band. They no longer dress in yellow and black, but they used to just be totally adorned in yellow and black spandex. They had yellow and black guitars and I think drum sets. And they take their name from the verse in Isaiah 53, by his stripes you are healed. And Michael Sweet, the lead singer, kind of has this really high-pitched sort of car alarm vibrato that he sings with. And Oz Fox on lead guitar. I don't know if Oz is still with him. I think so. And these guys were just a hair band, right? A hair band doing Christian metal. Well, they're still around. I didn't know that, but they're still around. They're still rocking. They're still doing their stuff for Jesus. They have a new album that's coming out in April. Somebody sent me the link. The album is called, and I shit you not, it's called Goddamn Evil. Now, I guess this isn't too much of a stretch, considering that, 30 years ago they released To Hell with the Devil. I was there for that tour. I saw the To Hell with the Devil tour with Stryper. I was at the Brady Theater in downtown Tulsa. They call the theater the Old Lady on Brady. And it's a charming theater. It's a cool place to have concerts and events. Stryper was live at the Old Lady on Brady, the To Hell with the Devil tour. And I was right there. I took a girl, I was on a date with a girl named Tina, who'd she didn't even know who Stryper was. I'm sure she is probably still in therapy, right? She's just damaged by the spectacle. I mean, the volume was, we might as well have stuck our head inside the speaker. The opening band was named Hurricane. The guy had this jewel-studded cello bow that he'd screech across his guitar. It was very Spinal Tap. And, it's pyrotechnics, and they're throwing these Bibles, the Stryper Bibles. They have these New Testaments. They're very small. And part of their thing is they chuck these things into the audience. You catch the Bibles, man, because we're spreading the word for Jesus. So anyway, the tour and the album are called To Hell with the Devil. And now, coming up in April, the Stryper album Goddamn Evil is going to release. And of course, my first thought is, are they not even remotely concerned about Christian radio airplay? Because almost all of Christian radio, at least in the United States, contemporary Christian radio, CCM, packages itself as family safe. Safe for your family. We're family radio. We're positive hits. This is how they brand Christian radio in the 21st century. So how in the world are they going to justify saying goddamn in any context on FM radio? I don't know. I'll be curious to see how the broadcasters in religious circles respond to this particular album. Anyway, Stryper's still around. Stryper is still around, and they're still making music. And we got some people in our audience who actually say they listen to and enjoy the tunes. Like, even though they're atheists, they still listen to Stryper. So, I mean, I haven't heard anything they've done since 1980, whatever. Calling on You and Honestly and Soldiers Under Command, those songs. I haven't heard anything new, so I have no idea. But since we're just talking here, true story, Michael Sweet had done a solo album in the 90s when I was a Christian broadcaster. We were at the Promenade Mall at Family Christian Store, and Michael Sweet was there in store. He was doing an album signing, an autograph signing, and we were broadcasting live. And I was the radio DJ who was on site. And so we were there, pretty good crowd, and we're all packed into this sort of narrow space, okay? So while we're all sitting there and he's busy signing and autographing and they're taking pictures and doing all this stuff, somebody runs by and throws a stink bomb into Family Christian Store. And I don't know what comprises a stink bomb, but I don't know if you light it. I don't know how they work, but they threw a stink bomb into Family Christian Store, and the entire store smelled like shit for the rest of the live broadcast. It's like someone emptied a porta potty on top of the store for the rest of the day. It was awful. It was awful. I'll never forget that day. It's just one of those things. Probably one of those things that'll pop up while I'm lying in bed at 3 a.m. and go, remember that time you were at Family Christian Store and somebody made the whole place smell like poo? That was a weird day. Did you see this article about this town in Michigan where apparently you have to be a Christian in order to be able to buy a house? Can you do that? I'll just read a little bit from the article. It was written by Rose Hackman for The Guardian this month. It says, tucked away in Michigan's Lower Peninsula, somewhere along the winding road that hug Great Lakes shores, is an idyllic town named Bayview. For more than a century, generations of Bayviewers have congregated here to share in summer activities. What started out as a modest camping ground for Methodist families 140 years ago has quietly developed into a stunning vacation spot for people who can afford the upkeep of a second home. Streets named Moss, Fern, and Maple are dotted with impeccably maintained century-old gingerbread cottages. Over the horizon, residents can watch lifelong friends sail their boats across the water, but this paradise is not open to all. In Bayview, only practicing Christians are allowed to buy houses or even inherit them. Prospective homeowners, according to a bylaw introduced in 1947 and strengthened in 1986, are required to produce evidence of their faith by providing, among other things, a letter from a Christian minister testifying to their active participation in a church. What? Last summer, a dozen current and former resident members filed a federal lawsuit against the town, its ruling Bayview Association, and a real estate company claiming the Christian litmus test was illegal and unconstitutional. Do you think? You know what my first thought is with this story? It's not that there would be a community of people who would set this requirement in place. Honestly, it ain't that surprising. Religion, most religions, certainly the Abrahamic religions, they are exclusive in nature. One of their defining characteristics, even as they do outreach to the out group, is to make the out group the in group. Right? The whole idea is to be one of the flock, one of the faithful. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. What strikes me about this story is how easy it would be to work the system. Most people are Christians in name only. Since when did church participation mean that you're a good Christian? We've all known wonderful religious people. Well, I say most of us. Some of us have known religious people who they don't go to church, but they want to make the world a better place, and they're spiritual in their own way, and they've defined God in some way. I mean, they're not religious people, but, they speak in religious language and they try to live good lives. And we've all known horrible human beings, just awful, terrible, vindictive, gossipy, nasty, greedy human beings who have failed the goodness test, who are at church every time the doors are open. Now, the minister sees Bob on the front row 5 days a week, and he's able to vouch for him. Oh, yeah, Bob's in church every time the doors are open. Oh, yeah, he's a familiar face around. We see him all the time. Puts money in the offering plates and just a good citizen, right? The idea that church participation, being a member of a congregation, allows you to pass this test, to me, is just mind-blowing. It essentially allows anybody and everybody who goes through the motions to get this exclusivity. Don't go to church, don't have a minister, but you're a wonderful human being. Screw you. You're an asshole who can do the sanctimony thing at Sunday go-to-meeting. Welcome to the community. And what's this deal with inheritance? A Christian parent passes away, or grandparent, and wants to leave property to their children or grandchildren. But if they are not Christians, they don't get the property. Then what happens? Is it handed over to the city? Do they auction it off and give the proceeds to the church? It's just wrong on every level. Apparently, Bayview is playing the nonprofit card. The governing Bayview Association is a 501c3 nonprofit or charity, but they sell and buy all this property for profit. Oh, this sounds hugely familiar. This sounds like a Ken Ham Ark Encounter thing to me. Whenever you need to be nonprofit, you're a church. But whenever you need to make money or conduct yourself as a business, well, you're a corporation. Ugh. Bayview, Michigan. Sounds like they need an atheist group there, don't you think? I guess you can start out in basements, Like the speakeasies of the 21st century, you can just be on the down low. There's an underground of heathenry happening in Bayview. And then one day when you have enough clout, you have enough membership, one day when you're ready, well, you guys just have a big party in the middle of town square. What a stupid world we live in. Oh, speaking of stupid, we talked recently. I was on the Cognitive Dissonance broadcast, and I released a video to celebrate their 400th episode this month. And You can find that video on my YouTube channel, but we were talking about Ken Copeland and how he was celebrating the fact that his congregants all got together to buy him a jet, like a $50 million jet. This is his fifth jet. He has five, right? And how insane it is. Well, if you look at the Copelands, you'll see just a long trail of breadcrumbs of insanity, right? It was his daughter's church down in Texas where they were warning about vaccines, and then there was a measles outbreak within the church, like specifically inside that particular church, which in my opinion makes Ken Copeland's daughter a public safety hazard. Well, Jimmy Kimmel Live this month posted a clip from Gloria Copeland. This is evangelist Ken Copeland's wife. Now, she's a minister in her own right. She's an advisor to President Trump's campaign, apparently. And she is talking about flu season, which we're not out of yet, right? Flu season. And she essentially said the best drug to prevent getting the flu is Jesus. I'll just play you the clip. Let me play you this clip real fast.
Well, listen, partners, we don't have a flu season. We've got a duck season, a deer season, but we don't have a flu season. And don't receive it when somebody threatens you with everybody's getting the flu. We've already had our shot. He bore our sicknesses and carried our diseases. That's what we stand on. And by his stripes, we were healed. If you've already got the flu, I'm going to pray for you right now. Father, I pray for every person that has symptoms of flu. I'm asking you, Lord, by your supernatural power, to heal them now from the top of their head to the soles of their feet.
Jesus. Oh, jeez. She's a public safety hazard.
Flu, I bind you off of the people in the name of Jesus. Jesus himself gave us the flu shot. He redeemed us from the curse of flu. And we receive it and we take it and we are healed by his stripes.
By his stripes, you are healed. You get the sniffles? We bind them sniffles in the name of Jesus. You got scratchy throat. You got congestion in your lungs. Do you feel weak in your muscles? That's the devil. The devil has no power over Jesus Christ. Jesus is our flu shot. Lord, we ask that you bring down your healing power upon us now and redeem us mind, body, heart, and soul from the tops of our heads to the soles of our feet. By the way, here's my toll-free number to give your love seed gift to my ministry so my husband can fly in his own jet from his own airport all across the damn world on your dime. Praise Jesus. I go back and forth sometimes on the people who support these charlatans. I mean, there's a part of me that knows that many of them are victims. They're being conned. They're often at a low point in their life, or for some reason they're just vulnerable and susceptible to these messages more than others, perhaps, and they get taken. And there's another part of me that says, if you're this stupid to buy into anything that comes out of these people's mouths, you got it coming. And then I have to breathe. And then I have to recenter my chakras and align my chi and allow my inner calm to come in from the cosmic wind, as David Avocado Wolf might say. And I remember that we need to treat believers whenever possible with compassion and try to defeat the bad ideas, try to go after the charlatans and not the victims of the charlatans. That's kind of how I reason it out in my own mind. But it's maddening. We made these people rich. We made them rich, and we made them influential. In many ways, it's the public's fault for propelling these people to the forefront of ministry, telling us they don't need no flu shot. Just call out to the air. Jesus himself is the great inoculation, because by his stripes we are healed. You've heard enough from me this show. Let's hear from our listeners. Short break. When I come back, we go to the switchboard as our listeners sound off about whatever insanity's going on in their lives. Hang on. You got a lot of plates spinning. You know, I get it. I feel it. I live it. You and I have come to this point where it's time to streamline. We got to simplify. We got to make sure that we are working the clock, right? We're working the expense account and we're not letting them work us. And this is why I am convinced you are going to love Stamps.com as much as I do. Now, you know the postage rates have gone up again, right? But Stamps.com can keep your postage rates down with discounts of up to 40%. And these are discounts you cannot even get at the post office. Stamps.com saves you 3 cents on every letter you send. That is 2016 postage rates for 2018 stamps. The whole process is about making your life easier and better. Calculate and print the correct amount of postage for everything you send. All of the services of the U.S. Postal Service is right at your own desk, your own computer, your own printer, and the mail carrier can just pick it right up, which saves you the drive to the post office. I have used Stamps.com for many years, from everything from book mailings to bills to birthday and holiday gifts. They are just fantastic. And right now, you too can enjoy Stamps.com with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale. So go to Stamps.com right now. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Seth Andrews. That's Stamps.com. Enter Seth Andrews. My patrons get a commercial-free show every week and a bonus broadcast that's just for them. Thanks for supporting me and my work and this show on Patreon. It makes a huge difference. If you're not a patron already, just log on and check it out at patreon.com/Seth Andrews. I've got Kevin on the switchboard. Kevin, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. What's up with you, man?
Not much, Seth. How are you doing?
Holding it together, you know, trying to wrestle with my own hamster wheel of a brain and all the insanity in the world. How about you?
Yep, same thing. Like, you and I are both the same as far as trying to sleep and then everything goes crazy in the brain.
What's your solution?
I really don't have one. I just kind of deal with it. I actually find that some of my most interesting thoughts come in that half asleep, half awake state, so...
Like the Insomniac philosopher kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, it's actually a lot of that. Like, I remember when I first discovered Christopher Hitchens, I would have a lot of, like, half-dream conversations with him about what he was saying in the last debate that I watched or whatever it was. And those were interesting. So I'm like, hey, I'll take it.
I never had a chance to meet Hitchens. It's one of the great regrets of my life. I just came to the party too late. He was already in failing health before I hit the convention scene, and I always had this regret, kind of this wish that I'd had the opportunity to look him in the eye and say, thank you, right? Thanks for, I mean, it was a Christopher Hitchens video that sort of set me on my path, you know?
Yep. Same here. It was that and Dan Barker, so.
What else is up in your world, Kevin?
Not a whole lot. I've just had a son. He was born on the 17th of January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was very exciting. It was a very traumatic birth. It ended up being a uterine rupture. My wife lost half of her blood during the process, and it was pretty touch and go for a little while. And I was very interested as I was posting on Facebook to let everyone know what was happening. I got just tons of comments on Facebook of like, we're praying, thank God, things are going okay, that kind of stuff. And I was kind of like, what? Hang on a second. So I live in Rochester, Minnesota, which is the home of the Mayo. And that's where we were, luckily, because if we hadn't been there, she probably wouldn't have made it. And it was very interesting to see all these comments of people not thanking all of these doctors who were doing all of the work. Everyone who offered all of these prayers, I wanted to put on Facebook, please, for everyone who said, I offer a prayer, please donate $1 to Doctors Without Borders or something like that. that's actually going to do something.
Yeah. How's she doing today? I mean, is she all right? Your wife and child?
She's doing all right.
Good.
She's doing all right. We're getting by.
Trying to reconcile the words and actions of many religious people is frustrating. They live a contradiction. You know, they're claiming divine protection and healing while they're paying insurance premiums and calling the paramedics and visiting the emergency room. And, you know, they have a family physician they see and they take the kids to and all these things. I mean, I think to myself, thank you, God, for the healing as you're sitting in the doctor's office. To me, makes no sense.
I totally agree. To me, it really came full forward at this point because I was looking, let's build this up from the bottom here. We should be starting with thanking the person who built this building. Second, we should be starting with the person who designed these tiles that the doctors are standing on. We should be thanking that person. We should be thanking whoever came up with the scalpel. We should be thanking whoever came up with the anesthetics. Like all of these things that go into, you know, how that surgery went successfully. And everyone just immediately goes to, well, it was God that did it. Like, no, it wasn't. There's like hundreds and thousands and millions of hours of human effort that went into this to save these lives.
I produced a video a few years ago. It was a prayer meeting. We set it up in someone's living room. They were all atheist actors who were helping me out. And there was a prayer meeting going on. In the middle of the prayer meeting, one guy grabs his chest. He's supposed to be having a heart attack, and he drops to the floor, you know, and he's dying, right? And no one rushes to the phone to call 911. They all stand around the poor guy. They all join hands, and someone leads a prayer. Dear Lord, we just ask that you be with Kenny, you know. Please come down and you know it sort of drew a circle around the insanity of the whole thing, you know. So, but I'm glad you and your bride and your child are healthy. That's some good news, man. And I'm glad to know there's another insomniac philosopher out there. You know, there's a lot of us. We need to have a meeting. We all need to get together and share our thoughts someday. So
I would love that because a lot of times that I'm like, oh, this is a great idea, and then I'm too lazy to write it down. But so hopefully someone else has had the same idea.
Kevin, thanks for listening and thanks for being a part of the show, man. I sure appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, Seth. Thank you so much.
I have Jordan on Skype. Jordan, you are on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. What's up?
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm well. What do you want to talk about today? It's kind of a potpourri of just, you know, the blender of the mind kind of stuff today. What are you thinking?
Okay. Well, so first off, I'm a fairly new atheist. What I mean by that, I'm 27. I've been kind of doubting the legitimacy of the Christian faith since I was a child. And often questions I had returned some pretty dissatisfying answers. That was up until a few years ago. It was kind of Pascal's wager that held me on the cusp of religion in some form or another. That was kind of up until I became familiar with the works of Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Matt Dillahunty, Sam Harris, yourself, even your podcast. It caused me to have a bit of a more reasonable scientific approach to things. But so let me get with the scenario, this thought experiment. It was a scenario that was first proposed on the set of a show called The Big Questions. It was featured on BBC years ago. The basis of the thought experiment came from one of the guests on the show was Kate Smurthwaite of the National Secular Society. And she asked another guest on the show, who's a pastor, if all aborted babies go to heaven, wouldn't you be doing them a favor? And so it kind of brings me to just put yourself in the shoes of a theist, of this pastor, or anyone that believes this thing, that all aborted babies would go to heaven. And now put yourself in the large group of members that believe this. To you, they've been robbed of every opportunity that God had given them. But due to the sinful act of the doctor performing the abortion, the soul is now permanently transported to heaven forever. It's sort of a spiritual transaction. We've exchanged, on average, about 80 years of life on earth of questionable quality of life. It's really just a crapshoot. And that's speaking on most developed countries. Of course, your home country, your socioeconomic status, myriad other variables kind of determine whether or not your quality of life is. But I digress. So this kind of paradise that this fetus that has been aborted is rewarded with requires no act on their behalf, no faith, nothing. Is it really such a raw deal? And furthermore, this doctor that continues to ensure the salvation for hundreds or thousands or more, what are the repercussions?
So the idea is, instead of rolling the dice for an extremely temporary life on earth, sort of a pre-heaven life, the abortion doctor is facilitating for the fetus a guaranteed skip over of this earthly turmoil and direct transit to the bliss of heaven.
It's a salvation loophole, so it seems, right?
You mentioned Kate Smurthwaite. Is she the one? I think I've seen the clip. She mentioned something to someone and ended her comment with, she didn't believe in religion or God because she's not a complete idiot. Was that Kate?
I think so.
Does that sound like her?
I think it was, she said, I don't believe in things without evidence because I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the clip.
Yeah,
so.
Yes, that was her.
Well, abortion obviously it's a serious topic, but
absolutely.
Watching the religious people talk about, rescuing the children. Now, for me, from the religious culture I came from, it wasn't preborn babies, it wasn't the fetus. It was a child who had already been born until what they called the age of accountability. If that child died, it would automatically go to heaven. So like a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, they would automatically go. So it actually goes beyond the abortion scenario to any child who passes away. But it's an interesting thing to present to religious people. If the abortion doctor is guaranteeing that the child will just skip over a temporary life and potentially a miserable one for guaranteed paradise, would you not support that? It would be interesting to see the responses.
Exactly. And really, you kind of think of this agent of salvation, this person that can ensure the salvation of others without them doing anything, that without them even being aware of what's going on, where you have Jesus that had given up his 3-day weekend for Christians under many restrictive conditions, an ambiguous evolving codex, and a variety of Christian denominations that are constantly arguing about what's going to send you to hell, what's going to send you to heaven. Well, the abortion doctor has none of that. It bars nobody from anything.
And then the believer is faced with the notion that the abortion doctor is, in fact, doing God's good work.
Quite righteous, indeed, yes.
Yeah. That's something we can chew on, my friend. Thanks for calling the show. Thanks for giving us something to think and talk about, okay?
Well, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Area code 615, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. What's your name?
My name's Tracy. I am from Nashville, Tennessee.
Tracy, you driving?
I am driving. I am hands-free. I wouldn't tempt fate like that.
All right. What's on your mind today, Tracy?
I am an out atheist. I'm also an out lesbian. And what I wanted to talk about was, I have a lot of LGBTQ friends that are still professed Christians or other religions that kind of stay in the church. And I guess that's one thing that I just don't understand, how you can be part of an organization or anything like that openly condemns you. That was one of the reasons I left the church. In fact, the first reason I left the church, even before I recognized myself as an atheist.
What kind of church was it?
Pentecostal, Church of God of Prophecy, to be exact.
Sermons about Sodom and Gomorrah, God's judgment upon the gay, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. All that, plus I think what really started me on the path is early as a young child, I wanted to be a minister when I grew up, and I actually mentioned that to my pastor, and it was like, oh no, women can't do that. And so that was the first seed that got planted. And then as my sexuality kind of came into fruition, all the Sodom and Gomorrah, hell and brimstone, gays are an abomination, that further muddled it until by the time I went to college, and I actually went to a Southern Baptist college, an all-girls college. That's a whole other story. By that time, I was just kind of I'm spiritual but not religious, and then it just kind of went from there.
So you're looking at the Bible, and you're looking at the religion based on the Bible, and you're looking at LGBTQ people, and you're going, what the hell?
Exactly. I have a couple of LGBT. Now, they're in really liberal denominations, so they're okay. But in my opinion, those churches, even though I'm glad they exist for those people that want to remain in the church, I think in my opinion, they dance around. They do this just as much apologetic acrobatics as other apologists that are on the other side to make that okay, because their scriptures clearly say it's wrong.
Cafeteria Christianity, right?
Exactly. I have a few that are actually clergy, and I don't
Wait,
get
wait,
it. I'm like,
wait. Whoa, hang on. They're clergy in the Pentecostal church?
No. They're part of liberal
okay.
denominations, like
okay, all right.
like
Sorry,
Methodists,
wasn't.
like Methodists or things of that nature.
I'm sorry, I was still stuck on your origins back in the, the pew jumping tambourine Pentecostal background. I wasn't tracking there.
That was some scary shit growing up. I could talk for hours on that.
Did you ever jump a pew?
No, I didn't.
Wave your hands?
I did speak in tongues one time, and it was the most terrifying thing that I've ever done. And I can't, to this day, I can't explain it. It was just like group psychosis, and I never want to experience that again. So I don't know. I still don't have a clue with that.
I shit you not. I knew a guy, this was 3 decades ago. I knew a guy who he was Baptist, but he came from Pentecostal, right? And he told us a story about he used to be one of those flailing, hands up in the air, I'm baptized in the Holy Ghost kind of dudes. And he actually, apparently in a filling of the Holy Spirit, he jumped through a second-story window and he broke his leg. Okay. So
was he immediately healed?
He was not immediately healed. But afterwards, he was telling us as a Baptist how crazy and insane the Pentecostal faith was because of all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm trying to picture this guy flinging himself out the window, in the name of Jesus. So it just blows my mind. Well, honestly, I think you already know the answer to the question about the LGBTQ and their embracing of Christianity. It's that people like to paint a Jesus with the colors that are most comfortable and palatable for them. I mean, I know people like women. How is it that any woman anywhere can say she loves Christianity and Jesus when they're defending a book that mutes their voice, that silences them, that tells them they're supposed to be submissive and subjective to the men? Either they take pride in it. I've heard this. Well, the Lord made us as a vessel so that we could serve the man, which is part of God's model, and they're happy to be slaves. Or they just decide that their Jesus would never silence the voices of women. And I'm pointing to the verse. I'm like, no, it's right here. It's right in your holy book.
And they blame women for the whole downfall of man. We caused it. I'm like, how could you be part of anything that blames you for every bad thing that goes on in the world? I don't get it. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. It's Stockholm Syndrome.
The reason childbirth hurts is because Eve screwed up in the garden. And so now all women through the end of human history will now have to experience pain in the delivery room or whatever. I mean, to them, this makes sense. It blows my mind. Honestly, I just think humankind is great at constructing gods in their own image, or at the very least, the God that gives them the most comfort or structure. They just decide they're going to choose the parts they want. They ignore the rest, move on, and stop listening. And it's maddening.
Oh, yeah. We could bring so many other groups into this. African Americans, the religion that basically kept them in slavery for hundreds of years. Same thing. It's like this universal Stockholm Syndrome, and it's okay. They just accept it and move on. And it's just, especially here in the South, I see it all the time. And it's just maddening. I don't know, what else to say about it. It's maddening, and I'm told to shut up whenever I start to talk about it.
I feel for the person that tells you to shut up. I just don't see that going over, Tracy. You sound like kind of a force of nature.
Yeah, I do stand-up comedy, so I talk about it on stage. So
you got thick skin then. You've been there, done that.
I have.
We're going to do a show next week about some of the stuff religious people say when challenged by an atheist. I think you'll find that show therapeutic. That's coming up next Tuesday. Tracy, drive safe out there. Thanks for calling. Have a wonderful week, okay?
Thank you a lot, Seth, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
On the switchboard, I've got area code 928. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. What's your name?
My name is Corey.
Corey, do you ever find yourself sort of just, not stressed out, not riddled with anxiety, not on a, caffeine high or something, but it's the middle of the night and you're just wide-eyed, staring at the ceiling, contemplating the universe? You ever do that?
Oh, definitely. I'm probably the best navel gazer there is.
What kind of?
I know more about my belly button than my wife does.
What kind of stuff goes through your mind?
Oh, gosh. I would have to say Well, because this atheism thing is so new to me. I mean, I've been out maybe only 2 months or so, and it's that whole wanting to do something positive for the movement and trying to discern just what maybe my place is in it, or here, I'll give you a specific example. When you join a Facebook group or almost anywhere else online, maybe you're a member of a forum or something to that end, you see a lot of arguing taking place. And it's usually along the lines of, you're an asshole, oh no, you're the asshole sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not real debate. And, logic is what led me to atheism / skepticism / we'll say humanism in the first place. But more and more, I'm starting to wonder if it's not an emotional appeal that's going to appeal to, we'll say, the proverbial masses rather than logic. I feel almost as though, and granted, I'm still evolving into this. I'm still learning about the nuts and bolts of it, but it almost feels to me at the current moment that sometimes, if not most of the time, it's an emotional appeal that's going to get more folks on our side.
I have two thoughts on that, Corey. First of all, I'm thinking you're contemplating how to go out and change the world at 3 a.m, and I'm thinking about how much I love Captain Crunch. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the difference between us is just profound. I'm lying there going, oh, Captain Crunch sounds really good. You strike on something that's controversial because many people who were emotionally manipulated by the church or religion, they, as an atheist, reject all emotion. They don't want emotion part of what we do or how we do it because they feel like emotion means manipulation.
Right, and not to take anything away from those folks who are angry, because I was angry for a long time too, and that anger is 100%, it's 150% justified. When I look at the nuts and bolts of it, and again, like I said, I'm evolving, I'm changing into this sort of thing, and I'm hardly the person that I'm going to be in the next 6 months to 60 years, if I get that long. Hopefully I do. I'm 37, but so I almost feel as though we need more atheists who are happy, successful, out, and have a perception about them that they just happen to be normal people who don't believe in a God.
I understand what you mean by saying perhaps less of the data, and in the spirit of that, I agree. I'd like to see more of kind of a 1-2 punch. I think we can incorporate emotion into how we present the facts. It's okay to feel something about the things we think about, which is why instead of putting somebody that we want to challenge or speak to or have dialogue with, instead of just putting them in a chair under white fluorescent light and giving them data points that will put them to sleep or cause them to walk out of the room, to tell them a story, to present things in a way that engages the heart as well as the mind, not cheating the mind, not cheating the intellect, but engaging all the senses. I think we as a movement need to do a better job of relating the human experience to our discussions about skepticism and data and the evidence and science and the rejection of superstition. And that can include, in a healthy way, can include emotion. So I think you've got a great point, Corey.
Well, thank you.
That's really good stuff, my friend. Thanks for talking to me today. Thanks for being a part of the show.
It's been a pleasure.
I've got Dennis. Dennis, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. How's it going?
Not too bad. How you doing today?
I'm good. I've titled the show An Atheist Insomniac because I don't know how many nights I just sort of drift through the weird wonderland that is my brain. You ever do that?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually.
What do? Do you get up? Do you lie there? Do you get coffee? You watch TV? Read a book? What?
I usually get up and read some, or occasionally I'll get up and play on an online game.
I just recently got back into gaming, just, in a cursory way. I play a little bit on Twitch. What's your game of choice these days?
I'm bouncing back and forth between War Commander, which has been online for years. I still play around with it, and there's a Star Trek game I started messing with.
What is it?
Star Trek Timelines.
All right. What's going on in your world? What do you want to contribute for the show today? It's just sort of a potpourri of whatever's on people's minds.
I was going to share a little story. I work for a 911 service on an ambulance as a paramedic, and occasionally we'll do transfers to a bigger hospital. And one night I was taking cardiac patient down to one of the local cardiac hospitals and just overall talking with her, the basic questions of, what brought you into the ER and things of that nature. And I'm going over some of the stuff that she had questions about as far as what the doctor told her, and asked her what was going, when all this started. And she told me that she started in church. And I gave her credit the fact that she actually went to the ER instead of praying and hoping that her chest pain went away. But so we're talking about it, and she keeps bringing up what her church does, and she asked me, he's like, well, where do you go to church? And I'm like, well, I don't. And she's like, okay. Then she asked a couple of questions. She asked, well, can I ask why you don't go to church? I thought, well, I'm an atheist. That's why. And she paused for like a second or two and thought, like she was thinking about it. It's like, I had no idea that atheists were so nice. That's what she said. And it just sort of threw me for a second. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's a win. Somebody else can see that we're not all evil baby eaters.
Not all of us are evil baby eaters, damn it. It's like, what does she expect? We're talking 6-inch fingernails and horns, and there's like green slime coming out of your mouth. What do people expect an atheist to look like, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's rural Tennessee, and some of these small churches, they just sort of stay in their own little groups. And
she needs Gloria Copeland to pray her out of her chest pain, I guess. We were talking about Gloria Copeland saying that the Lord is the greatest vaccine for the flu virus. Well, if he can cure the flu, he's probably good for the heart as well. So, we'll just hook her and Gloria up. Maybe they can do the whole laying on of hands thing. So, Dennis, I appreciate you being a part of the show. Thanks for the work you do as a paramedic. I got a buddy. Now he's a fire captain, but he got his start as a paramedic. And, man, he had some stories. God, we'd go out to dinner, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, they stuck what in where?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, they injured what? Doing what? I mean, it just blows my mind. I'll bet you've got some great stories.
Yeah, my wife's in the medical field too, and my kids are like bug-eyed sometimes at dinner because, you don't think about it. You just start talking about these stories.
And then there's the ones that, you can't yet necessarily tell the kids, or, you have to, it's a cost-benefit decision. Like, well, he took a vacuum cleaner hose, and, oh, you know what? Never mind. Let's talk in a few years.
Yeah, those stories, no, but my daughter's turning 16, so she's going to start driving. So, yeah, I load her up on all the car wreck stories.
Oh, yeah. She probably knows more about this crazy world than we ever did when we were 16, my friend. Dennis, you're awesome. Thanks for the work you do, and thanks for being a part of the show, my friend.
You too. Appreciate the stuff you do, man.
Thanks for listening to the show today. As you lay your head to rest tonight, I wish you a blissful, sound, peaceful sleep. And if you happen to lie there staring up at the ceiling, contemplating the universe, well, make a mental note, make a physical note, and maybe we'll do this kind of show again, just kind of whatever's on your mind. Have a great week. I'll see you back here next Tuesday as we do a broadcast called When Christians Are Losing the Argument. The kind of stuff we hear and have to deal with when engaging believers, and they come at us with the arsenal of armchair apologetics. That's what the next broadcast is going to be about. I will see you next week.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.